Before the actual video starts, we feel the need to note that we are not in any way against homosexuality, so please do not take any jokes about homosexuality in a negative way. This message is mainly against those that are oversensitive enough to type irrational comments, so I will just say penis and hope that you will faint from the mere sound of the word. Enjoy the video, except for you, you oversensitive paranoid bastards.
Back in 1986, Shigeru Miyamoto decided to create a game that would capture the very essence of a childhood experience of cave exploration. The Legend of Zelda set the rules for future adventure games to come, with its ability to just throw you straight into action, along with its ability to sever the connection between the names Zelda and Fitzgerald. Well, I'm pretty sure that Shigeru Miyamoto will be proud to know that Skyward Sword really stuck to his formula, in the same sense that Samus's armor Metroid Other M would stick to Tic Tac on a jellyfish.
Get the fuck away from me!
Sorry, I just had to blow out some steam. With that contrived transition, we turn towards the topic of this analysis, the villain of Skyward Sword, the Demon Lord Ghirahim. Ghirahim is a flamboyant and overexuberant demon who chases Zelda throughout the game and encounters Link on several different occasions, mostly to act like every Zelda fanfiction writer's yaoi wet dream. You know who you are. During the very first encounter with the main hero, Ghirahim immediately displays traits of extreme emotional instability, narcissism, which includes sesquipedalian speech patterns, flamboyant demeanor, and little to no concept of personal space. Which sounds like me on a Friday night in a lecture hall. However, a slight shock comes around when it turns out that he's actually the very first boss fight of the whole game. However, when I say slight shock, I'm more talking about the kind of shock as when you find another Kreuger in the box. Enough to make you pleasantly surprised, but not anything that will linger with you when the apocalypse comes around, if you know what I'm saying. After this battle, Ghirahim runs away, claiming in a stereotypical villainous fashion that he will kill Link the next time they meet, raising the obvious question as to why he does not just kill Link then and there. For the rest of the game, Ghirahim and Link pursue the same roads, constantly encountering each other, like a truly clingy and annoying neighbor. Additionally, during the course of the adventures, Ghirahim grows more and more frustrated with Link as he constantly foils Ghirahim's plans, and soon he shows more himself. Quite literally, Ghirahim does. Yowie yowie. Now, when we got the spoiler-free synopsis out of the way, we can slow down and proceed with the actual analysis. To start off, you might have noticed that I used the word flamboyant twice in the previous paragraph, like an insecure man trying to prove his linguistic abilities. Well, aside from a desperate obsession of superiority, it is perhaps the best word for describing Ghirahim's attire. Either that or flashy. I mean, just look at that shit!
I'm super! Thanks for asking!
If one had to try to describe it, one could draw some parallels with the gypsy culture, which, interestingly enough, can be considered a theme within his first two boss battles. This can also lead to the fact that Ghirahim's insignia, as you have figured out if you have eyes, is in fact diamonds, which can be correlated with the stereotype of gypsies wearing a lot of jewelry, such as bracelets, earrings. All of those things can be found on Ghirahim's person. According to some sources, this is also a way to establish status within the gypsy culture, which can correlate with Ghirahim's arrogance and desire to feel superior. Speaking of which, Ghirahim's narcissism is in itself interesting to analyze. He holds himself in high regard and views down on everyone aside from himself and his master, the Demon King. He acts in a very theatrical, flashy manner as he uses exaggerated movements to describe everything. There is quite an interesting element here that makes one think that it is just not plainly narcissism. The key element to his narcissistic tendencies is the fact how it seems to be based completely around his master. Like an overly attached girlfriend, Ghirahim shows a clear admiration for his master, who probably does not even care about his subject to begin with. Like my mother. Why shouldn't she love me that bad? From this one might deduce that Ghirahim only holds himself in such a high regard because he is the Demon King's right-hand man, and not because he genuinely believes himself to be the strikingly handsome fellow he claims to be. Along with this, Ghirahim is also quite emotionally volatile, meaning that he always seems on edge and you never truly know where you have him, as he is very impulsive and erratic as a result. One moment he's being poetic, then he's shouting at the top of his voice. Next he's sneaking up behind Link, plays with his tongue in front of Link's face, and then stripping it off in order to fight him. You know, good boyfriend material. This in turn might be one of the two main reasons why people consider him to be a creepy character. The second reason might be because of his sadistic personality, as seen for example when he is fighting Impa in this scene. Girls, isn't that just the face you want your boyfriend to make whenever he sees you? Ghirahim has also at several occasions also played around with his tongue in front of Link as mentioned previously, either showing off a sadistic condition and attraction or very chapped lips. Considering that he might have been alive for over 1,000 years, I might wager the latter. The licking in turn leads to a particular event in the second fight with him, where Ghirahim will lick his plate whenever he hits Link, like it is a lollipop. This is a children's game, right? All of this combined as a diagnosis, while I do come to think of psychopathy, narcissistic and sadistic personality disorder, it would almost seem that Ghirahim would be a case of histrionic personality disorder, combined with the previously mentioned sadism. Histrionic people are defined as very exuberant, flamboyant, shallow, and many times excessively in need of attention. Ghirahim's antics seem to prove that he is indeed dependent on being noticed, and his dependence of his master is more transparent than an empty glass made of air. Additionally, this is also proven by the fact that Ghirahim is overthinking the relationship between him and those around him, Link in particular, viewing it as more intimate and closer than it actually is. Yowie yowie. Furthermore, along with his elegant clothing and his sesquipedalian speech pattern, which would indicate a sophisticated side according to many, I get the feeling that Ghirahim is in fact aware of his own bloodthirsty, sadistic, emotionally unstable nature, and subconsciously desires to hide it, even going so far as to calling it a character flaw of his. In the end, however, his true colors shine through, like subliminal messages in children's cartoons.
Smoke, kill, yowie.
One can argue that he is in the end trying to cling to his last bit of sanity after millennia of solitude, which in his eyes is his sophistication, elegance and arrogance, before losing it completely by the end. Kinda like the simultaneous loss of virginity and integrity. One thing I also like to do is theorize around the backstory of the character, especially villains, though I feel like in order to do that I have to spoil some major facts of the ending, so if you're that afraid of spoilers, throw out your computer through the window or something. By the very ending, Ghirahim is confronted one last time, and it is here that Ghirahim is revealed not to be just the right-hand man of the Demon King, but literally his right hand, as it turns out to be Demise's sword. This in turn makes him the dark reflection of the companion Fi, both in personality and design. Fascinating, said I. The dark counterpart and duality between these two can serve as a pinnacle in the story. Can we explore it more? I asked in hopeful glee, forgetting that interpreting something like this from Nintendo is apparently a cardinal sin. Though it did leave me with blue balls, I did start to theorize around this and Ghirahim's backstory. One theory is that Ghirahim might just be a mockery of the Master Sword created by the Demon King, but another that struck my mind is that perhaps Ghirahim was supposed to be a sword along with Fi. There is nothing confirming this, but it is still interesting that perhaps Ghirahim, the overly emotional side, will compensate the overly logical side of Fi. Though Ghirahim could have been abducted, brainwashed, or just simply tempted to join Demise, is an interesting concept that could have been explored further. Because the duality of Fi and Ghirahim is just pulled out of nowhere, it just seems like a desperate act and lost potential for a good character arc. And God knows that Fi fucking needs one. Before we finish this, I feel it is also worth mentioning that while one can apply this analysis to the Demon Lord Ghirahim, one has to remember that he is just that, a Demon Lord. Whether he is a sword entity or an actual demon, one must take into account that these characteristics that define pathological behavior might just be because he is a demon and it is in his nature. But now that I've taken that into account, I'm just going to say, yeah, fuck it. I have no real confirmation of this until I'm right, so shut up. In my own personal opinion, Ghirahim is one of the few truly good Zelda villains, which is interesting considering that on paper, he doesn't look like much. But it is how we experience him, the final product, that make him so unique. Case in point, character interaction. Because Ghirahim remains a constant presence throughout Skyward Sword, Link's growth seems almost parallel with Girahim's mental deterioration. Due to their interaction, showing Link's increasingly confused and disturbed expressions to Ghirahim's dramatic and eccentric antics, the latter character grows on the player. Ghirahim is not just a good villain, he is a great villain. In summary, Ghirahim is a character that probably seems generic and boring on paper, but once you experience him, he becomes a lot more amusing and interesting, especially from a pathological perspective. With his histrionic personality disorder, along with his flamboyant, theatrical, and sadistic demeanor, we have a strong villain in this game and one of Zelda's finest. So, does it save Skyward Sword? No, but it was not the cause of death of the game, that's for fucking sure.